A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. There broke out a severe persecution of the church in Jerusalem, and all were scattered throughout the countryside of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. Devout men buried Stephen and made a loud lament over him. Saul, meanwhile, was trying to destroy the church, entering house after house and dragging out men and women. He handed them over for imprisonment. Now those who had been scattered went about preaching the word. Thus Philip went down to the city of Samaria and proclaimed the Christ to them. With one accord, the crowds paid attention to what was said by Philip when they heard it and saw the signs he was doing. For unclean spirits, crying out in a loud voice, came out of many possessed people, and many paralyzed and crippled people were cured. There was great joy in that city. The word of the Lord. The response is, let all the earth cry out to God with joy. Shout joyfully to God, all the earth. Sing praise to the glory of his name. Proclaim his glorious praise. Say to God, how tremendous are your deeds. Let all the earth cry out to God with joy. Let all on earth worship and sing praise to you. Sing praise to your name. Come and see the works of God, his tremendous deeds among the children of Adam. Let all the earth cry out to God with joy. He has changed the sea into dry land. Through the river they passed on foot. Therefore, let us rejoice in him. He rules by his might forever. Let all the earth cry out to God with joy. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to the crowds, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. But I told you that although you have seen me, you do not believe. Everything that the Father gives me will come to me, and I will not reject anyone who comes to me, because I came down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of the one who sent me. And this is the will of the one who sent me, that I should not lose anything of what he gave me, but that I should raise it on the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have eternal life, and I shall raise him on the last day. The Gospel of the Lord. The daily meditation from the Word Among Us, WAU.org. I am the bread of life. John chapter 6, verse 35. Do you sometimes read the Bible and wonder what Jesus is trying to say? Often Jesus' message is obvious. For instance, in the parable of the Good Samaritan, he is clearly telling us to help people, even those we don't know or who seem different from us. Or sometimes Jesus gives us a straight answer to a direct question, like when a scribe asks which commandment is the greatest. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. But in today's gospel, part of the famous Bread of Life discourse, Jesus' message was not all that clear to his listeners. The more Jesus talked, the more scandalized they became. How can he say he came down from heaven? How could he give them his flesh to eat? Jesus' meaning was both symbolic and literal, so it's no wonder that people were confused. When Jesus refers to himself as the bread of life, he is talking about faith in him as the sustenance for our journey through life. He is saying that his words and our relationship with him are nourishment for our souls. But Jesus is also speaking literally. He was describing his gift of the Eucharist, which would become the pinnacle of our worship. He was talking about how receiving this gift could unite us with his body and blood, his soul and divinity. It wasn't until after the resurrection that Jesus' followers began to celebrate the Eucharist. So at this point, his listeners had no way of knowing what he was referring to. All they could do was accept his words with faith. Even today, the Eucharist is mysterious. It defies our imagination, and only the gift of faith can allow us to believe it. After hearing the Bread of Life discourse, many of Jesus' followers left him. Not Peter, though. He was probably just as confused as the others, but he believed in Jesus. It's normal to have doubts. We may question a church teaching or wonder why bad things happen to good people. But whatever our questions, we can always hold on to our faith until God makes his way clearer to us, just as Peter did. Lord, give me a humble heart that accepts and trusts your word. Have a great day.